years from 2010 to 2015, we bought probably 135 buildings,
yes,
right? And probably flipped, 60 buildings.
No, it's amazing.
Right?
It's amazing.
Brokered, referred.
Right.
I mean, it was just like refied. The refis were like 2 a month. I mean, it was nothing like it.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
It was.
You guys must have been going like 24/7.
24/7
for that kind of volume.
24/7.
Plus the system, meaning the lending community and all that stuff, was in favor of it all.
The system, even though brokers wouldn't call us with these deals, it was really all sourced through us, through the office, through direct mail. I mean, the phone was ringing every weekend, all weekend.
Right.
It's like if you weren't going to go to the office at 6 o'clock in the morning, if you weren't still answering your phone at 11 at night, you're going to miss things.
Were you married then?
I was just, getting into, my wife knew what she was signing up for.
Okay,
good. I had two phones in the delivery room. She always talks about that because I have one phone for the mail, one phone for, regular phone.
Right, sure.
Even though it all get mixed anyway.
Right.
There was no way to track it then.
Right.
It was just too much, right? So it was look, people talk about it all the time. Like, it'll just never exist like that again. Mm-hmm. And that's when I get I try to recreate it in my day-to-day now because I get bored, right? This, I like to stay very busy,
yeah,
right?
Sure.
We're all deal junkies, right?
Yeah,
we want to be always busy doing stuff, but it's never going to be like that again because once 2016, 2016 was the peak of the market because they started changing, regulations.
Sure. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the Zelnik Exchange. I am your host, Corey Zelnik. Today I have the great pleasure of spending some time with my friend and partner, David Shorenstein. David has a long history of investing in various types of properties throughout the New York City metropolitan area and some other states, and he'll tell us about that. We're going to talk about his history as a former real estate broker, as a multifamily investor, a strip center investor, an industrial investor, and all the things in between. David Shorenstein, welcome to the Zelnik Exchange.
Thank you for having me.
And I must add, co-founder of Hildreth Real Estate Advisors. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You and I we actually have a long history of certainly knowing each other. We've gotten to know each other better over the last couple of years. You've presented some opportunities that I have found interesting and made some investments in. I tied to the retail aspect of things. So when you brought them my way, I found them very interesting. But before we dig into those things, tell me about growing up on the Upper East Side and how all this started for you.
Well, growing up on the Upper East Side, it was interesting because there was really no downtown back then. Right. There was nothing below. No one really lived below. Let's call it 42nd Street.
Pretty much, you're right.
Upper East Side was its own little capsule. Mm-hmm. I think more people knew each other. There were less big buildings. So, I had a interesting childhood growing up. And then, once you learn about your family we had some financial troubles and had to switch schools. And, that kind of gave me this chip on my shoulder. What can I do differently? I have to work hard. I always had to have a job. Right when I was 15, I started working when most people were on teen tours. Mm-hmm. So I think that gave me a base of working hard, have to have your own money because no one was going to give me any money.
Sure.
So
let me ask you only because I'm an Upper East Sider, just the same. So where did you go to grade school and where did you go to high school?
I went to grade school at Horace Mann.
Okay.
Then had to switch to Birchwathen where I went on a full scholarship for 2 years.
Nice.
Because Horace Mann, if you don't pay your bills, they don't keep you.
That's right.
So that's just the way it is.
All right.
Maybe they do things differently. And then my parents were able to go back or went to different jobs. So then I graduated from Riverdale. So I switched from Birchwathen to Riverdale for 11th and 12th grade, which was its own experience, nice. Being probably one of the poorest kids in a very rich person's school,
sure.
Also gives you some chip on your shoulder, so to speak. It's not easy. So then I went to NYU Stern School of Business for undergrad, couldn't afford graduate school. Right. So then, I took one real estate class while I was there in the undergraduate business school. Mm-hmm. I liked it. Something you could do with sales because I knew I probably wasn't going to get one of those highly recruited finance jobs, right? You had to be extremely good with numbers. Right. It's an extremely competitive school. So I had to figure out something I could do more like people oriented and real estate. Started meeting with people in the business, whether they were office leasing brokers or I met with property management firms, and got hired doing office leasing, making $25,000 a year.
Really?
Yep.
By the way, getting $25,000 a year is ahead of most people, right?
It was ahead of most people, but some people that were graduating were getting things making $60,000
a
year, $70,000, $80,000.
I'm specific to the real estate business.
Yes.
To get paid
to
do
get
leasing.
paid anything. Yes.
Right.
So they liked me. They said, okay, you're going to lease and you're going to poach tenants. This is like kind of CoStar was in its middle of its day. You're going to poach tenants and bring us to our buildings, which are dilapidated buildings, but you're taking from one dilapidated building and bring them to our building. So I had to dress up in a suit in the summer every day and walk 10 blocks over to the garment center to start knocking on people's doors.
Okay, so I never come with trick questions. I really don't. So I'm not going to give you one, I hope. But what was the pitch to leave one dilapidated building to go to the next dilapidated building?
We're going to make it nice. Your lease is expiring. We have a better deal, blah, blah, blah. So, and this is before Garment Center was anything that is today. It was bad.
Sure,
right? In 2003, 2004, 2003. So while I was there was one gentleman at this firm. It was a management owner leasing brokerage firm, right? A long-term firm. They're kind of almost out of business now. So there was one guy there who was like a building sales broker, right? And then just started chatting with him, and he's like, I'm putting this deal together, $80 million. Whether he was really selling these things or not, $80 million, $60 million, $30 million, $20 million. And just either selling them to the owner of the firm, right? Bringing in like his almost in-house acquisitions guys, and I'm like, seeing the Massey Knackle books on the desk, and these commissions are massive. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I could sell a building to one of my friends, I had some connections at that point that I thought every friend of mine said their dad bought buildings. So I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm taking setups and I'm making my own setups and sending them to my friends. Because there were brokerages back in those days would fax setups everywhere.
Yes.
So it's kind of like doing that. So they didn't like I was doing that, because I was focusing more on doing that than doing
their buildings.
So they fired me after a month.
Okay.
So after a month, I get fired. I thought the world is going to end because I have to pay my rent. I'm not living at home, which was great, fun, and had to live in the Windsor Court with 3 guys in a 1-bedroom.
All right. And look, we all learn through suffering, right?
We all learn through. So I'm back to more suffering. So I go do that, and then I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to lease apartments maybe on the weekends while I go back to finding investment sales job or office leasing, figure out what I really want to do. So I go into apartment leasing company. They're like, you don't want to lease apartments. Like, this is not for you, whatever. Right. So I meet a guy who was doing office leasing at this apartment rental company. So then I go there and then I start just doing building sales. I don't know what I'm doing, calling out of the blue book, right? Putting things together.
Yes.
Some residential agents bring over listings or people who want to sell their buildings, and then just somehow put them in the newspaper.
These are referrals.
Referrals. Like Douglas Elliman will refer to their commercial team. A commercial team of residential firm. So spent about a year and a half there. Sold 4 buildings in a year and a half, which was remarkable.
That's fabulous.
Right? But there was less competition, less internet.
Yeah, of course.
There were a few big brokerages. And then that company got sold. And then another... Like, what am I going to do?
If you don't mind,
that was City Habitats.
Oh, okay,
City Habitats. So then it was like, okay, you could go work at Corcoran, which was not a building sales firm. They didn't want building sales. So then I had a partner at the time, and we went to Marcus and Millichap.
All right.
Right, and that's really where you learn the business the right way. Yeah, I came in and say, I sold 4 buildings. I know exactly what I'm doing. You don't really know what you're doing.
You don't. Right? You don't. But in our business, it's all salesmanship, right?
Right.
And you walked in, and your resume was the sale of those buildings.
Right. So I had a resume, and the company was just starting out in New York, so they kind of put us on a mini pedestal, so to speak. They had a few guys there that have gone on to do insane things. Way big things.
All right.
Like Glenn Konofsky's of the world and people like that.
Sure.
But they put us on this little pedestal and treated us like we had experience, but we really just had really no experience, right?
Just fake it till you make it, right?
Fake it till you make it. So then there you learn how to cold call, find owners of buildings, evaluate buildings the right way. So I spent 4 years there. Had some good years there.
Yeah. Did you have? I think I was reading some of your notes. You had like a couple of monster sales.
A couple of monster sales, an $82 million office building. A whole assemblage of buildings on 14th and 3rd. I mean, there were a lot of walk-ups in the village. Did you assemble? Was it the northeast corner? Did you happen to assemble the northeast corner of 14th and 3rd? No, that's Coral Towers. I lived in that building.
Did you really?
When I was in at NYU. Okay. But the southeast corner.
The north I know was put together by a Russian group.
Yeah.
Because my former partner and I put the Dwayne Reed in at the base of the building.
Got it.
So I knew it was a new building.
So right at the south corner.
Sure.
So some very good sales, and then while we were there, I mean, there was always an itch to say, all right, now I'm doing this for other people, because I could even flip buildings for other people. Someone would hire me to sell their building, and I resell it the next year. I'm like, wow, this is how you really make money, right? Like, yes, you can make money brokering, but I'm like, this is where you really want to become a principal. So while we were there, I had this partner, and we cobbled together. Most of it was his family's money. We bought buildings, right? Okay. But it was not an equal partnership, so to speak. If someone puts in most of the money and someone puts in a lot of the work and finds them, it's still not equal, no matter what happens, right? And you got to learn these things the hard way. So then the plan was to leave there with these buildings. Then the market crashed in 06, 07.
Right.
The brokerage business dies.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. You can't really buy any more buildings, so everything's frozen.
Right, unless you were cash heavy and said, wow, the world's come to an end, now it's an opportunity.
Right.
Which is not a lot of people.
Right.
It's not a lot
so I
of
put
people.
half my life savings in these buildings. There's no more brokerage going on. This guy wants to just manage the 6 that he bought with millions of dollars of his family's money. So then at that point, I had to really just get my money back out of that, and start something new, which was really then started with the smallest building in New York City, like a $90,000 building I bought in Queens.
Oh yeah, whereabouts?
Right?
Where in
Queens?
Queens?
Jamaica, Queens.
Okay.
Which now is red hot.
Of course.
Whatever. Of course.
Well, I know all the areas, so I like to talk about all the areas.
Right.
Yeah.
So we bought a building. So it was a guy that worked at Marcus, because Marcus, you had to be much more entrepreneurial if you were going to make something out of yourself when the downturn hit.
Absolutely.
Whether it's brokering on your own, a deal here, a deal there, whether it's buying a $90,000 building, whether it's flipping contracts, not just because the Marcus way was not working anymore.
Right.
So then
and they were clearly okay with it. They knew what you were doing, or you didn't.
I was doing some of that stuff, right? And then it was just came to the point, it was time to make the decision to leave.
Understood.
Because that business was just there wasn't valuing someone's building when no buildings were selling. It's tough to make a living that way.
Oh, absolutely. Because at that point, you're straight commission anyway, right? You're just
right.
commission.
So I had to say, all right, I got to do something a little more entrepreneurial now. If I find a deal, what can I do with this deal?
Right.
Can I flip the contract? Can I broker it? Can I buy it? Right. Which I didn't really know how to buy it because I didn't know how to syndicate yet.
Sure.
Brokering, flipping, buying, whatever you want to do with it, referring it.
Right.
Made plenty of money in my years referring to other brokers, right?
So give me an example of that referral. You're, and if I'm wrong, correct me. You find a property and you say you refer to another broker. You call someone over at Massey Knackle who's a friend of yours and you say, hey.
We sign an agreement that'll give me 20 to 30% of
and why didn't you sell it? Why didn't you sell it? Or?
Because let's say it was a museum. They're never going to hire me to, like a small museum is never going to hire an independent person. I'm calling as a buyer.
Understood.
Right. So that's how I would uncover. That's also what I learned.
Okay.
And taught myself while I was at Marcus. If you start calling as a principal, you get a lot more feedback than you do as a broker. Understood. It's just the way it is.
Understood.
Right. So if I would uncover an opportunity and say, okay, I'm going to buy it, then I could refer it and say, you know what, it's not for me. Talk to James Nelson, right? And James Nelson will go in, do the pitch. That's something I would have used to do, or call a Peter Vonderay, right? Or somebody like that. You sign your referral agreement. I still do this to this day. I do, let's call it 3 to 4 a year, and it's just a constant thing. Things that are just not for me, overpriced, or it's just out of my way.
As a buyer, but you know that there's a seller on the other side.
Right. Someone who's a real seller.
Okay.
It's just someone that wants to sell. I just did this with a car wash that someone basically laid up on a platter for me. You know, and I said it's just too expensive. The lease is too much. I could buy it, but it's not. Doesn't make enough sense. Just, you know, refer it over.
Understood.
So it can be a source of revenue for people that they don't realize.
No, that's fair.
You know, a lot of people just take things and they just probably dump them because it's just not for them. They dump them. But,
I think that the world in general has gotten much more referral friendly than it was in the past. You know, I'm a little older than you are. I started in the business early, and I know that back in the day, whenever that was, there wasn't a lot of the referral stuff.
Right.
You know, because brokers, and I think especially in New York City, you know, I've come to know a lot more people nationally, and it's very New York centric that New York brokers aren't friendly. Right. They're friendly, like, hey, how are you? But when it comes transactionally, if they're not a part of it, they're less eager to refer and take the 20 or 30%.
Right.
You know, they'll figure out how to make the 100, and almost in a weird way feel better by getting zero. They went for the 100, and they're okay taking the 0. As opposed to calling over there and saying, listen, I got nothing, but let me get 20 or 30%.
Right. A lot of people think that way.
And by the way, it's almost only in New York City.
Yep.
Almost.
Yep.
Because I can't speak for every state. But when I tell stories, you know, we have an annual real estate gala through various organizations, and we get together. And most of the people that come together are non-New Yorkers. And we know them I know them through social media, things like that, and we get to see each other in person, and it's fun, it's a laugh. But when we talk about business, just in general, I make their jaws drop, not from the dollar value of anything, but how you go about doing your business. You know, they're so much more welcoming. Oh, let me just call him. Let me give him the lead. You know, well, I know he's going to take care of me. We'll figure it out.
Right.
So
a lot of people just will take the lead, never sign the agreement, and you'll never hear from them.
Exactly. So it's interesting to hear.
That's why you got to have things papered, and you have to follow up, because even if you have it, you don't know what's going to happen with that lead.
And why not have another source of income? Right.
Why not have another source of income?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, and this is the back to those days almost, where you need those multiple sources coming in.
Yeah.
So left Marcus, which was also another daunting task, because then you're funding your own enterprise at that point.
So and is that the point where you had, I think you had Shorenstein Capital Partners,
Silvershore.
Oh, that was that became Silvershore.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So then that was like 07, 08, and it was predicated on just finding deals. Right. I mean, that's really what it was a canvassing. You know, we're gonna canvas, and we're gonna canvas for ourselves.
No, and you got and look, to your guys' credit, it's really when I first came, you know, to know you a little bit, was you were out there. You guys were bird dogging everything, and it certainly wasn't on a daily basis. But I recall, you know, periodically you'd come across certain buildings with some retail. So I'd get a phone call, you know, from you or from your former partner would call and say, look, we're looking at these buildings. What's the retail worth? Blah, 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 blah. But again, to your credit, it was the volume. You know, there were times, you know, I know a little bit better now, but even then I was like, oh, these guys again, these guys, you know, kind of thing. Because quite frankly, and I still do it maybe sometimes to a fault, where I'm very accessible. And so I was always giving you information. I never had any piece of any of the deals. I never did any of the lease, got any of the deals.
Right. You were doing the right thing.
So getting to know you in this later stage of life is my makeup for all of that.
Right. I think it will. I think it will pay off.
I think so too. So you guys, you're out there, you're grabbing.
We're
multifamily everywhere.
I mean, it was more of a Wild West type of thing. You know,
it was a lot of if I remember correctly, a lot of it was workforce housing.
Workforce housing. You know, it was the laws were different.
Sure.
Right, but then really, you know, you got to teach yourself how to raise money, right? Because you can't. If we only had, you know, a couple $1 million to play with, how many buildings can you buy? Right. Even in Manhattan, in buildings back then. You know, in Manhattan, you could buy a building for $1 million, $2 million, and then sell it for $2 million. Right. So, what really happened was, you know, bought a building for 1.2 and then sold it for 3.2. Mm-hmm. So with that, you could buy 6 buildings. Right. You 1031. Mm-hmm. And then
you work your way into the boroughs where you could
into the boroughs. The idea behind that was just like a fluky thing where, we found one building off a letter or a tax lien, and then you just go there and then you see these areas. And I didn't even know Brooklyn really existed. Right? It was crazy, and it was just before, the boom time, and then we started going deeper and deeper and hiring more people and getting people to work for free as a challenge. But we had this. We had a machine.
How many people did you have?
There's always look, it's the same as brokerage, right? You could have 20 people, but only 3 or 4 are going to produce.
Of course. Weren't you in one of Scott Demansky's buildings on Park South?
That was after that. Once you hit it big, so to speak, right? Then you want to get the big office, big everything, and sometimes you don't need that. Right, because then you have big expenses, and then sometimes there are things outside of your control, which we get into later. But years from 2010 to 2015, we bought probably 135 buildings, right, and probably flipped, 60 buildings.
No, it's amazing. Right? It's amazing.
Brokered, referred. Right. I mean, it was just like. The refis were like 2 a month. I mean, it was nothing like it. Right? It was.
You guys must have been going like 24/7.
24/7
for that kind of volume.
24/7.
Plus the system, meaning the lending community and all that stuff, was in favor of it all.
The system, even though brokers wouldn't call us with these deals, it was really all sourced through us, through the office, through direct mail. I mean, the phone was ringing every weekend, all weekend. Right. It's like if you weren't going to go to the office at 6 o'clock in the morning, if you weren't still answering your phone at 11 at night, you're going to miss things.
Were you married then?
I was just, getting into, my wife knew what she was signing up for.
Okay, good.
I had 2 phones in the delivery room. She always talks about that because I have 1 phone for the mail, 1 phone for, regular phone.
Right, sure.
Even though it would all get mixed anyway.
Right.
There was no way to track it then.
Right.
It was just too much, right? So it was look, people talk about it all the time. Like, it'll just never exist like that again. And that's when I get I try to recreate it in my day-to-day now because I get bored, right? This, I like to stay very busy,
yeah,
right?
Sure.
We're all deal junkies, right?
Yeah,
we want to be always busy doing stuff, but it's never going to be like that again because once 2016, 2016 was the peak of the market because they started changing, regulations.
Sure, and at that point, do you still own 135 buildings or more?
About 100. I think it was about at 100 or so, and we said, all right, we're going to try to sell.
I was going to say, because there was
big
a point
packages.
Right.
We were going to try to sell big packages because we did sell some big packages along the way.
You sold a chunk to Related,
right? So the goal was to do, that was the model, right?
Okay.
Aggregate packages, sell packages.
Okay.
Right? That was the model. Aggregate and we built these packages, right? And they were all cohesive, and then just the buyer demand just started waning as 2016. They said, all right, you can't buy out the tenants like you used to.
Right.
Were
you managing all of these properties?
We were managing them.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And that's also
who's running out to Brooklyn.
We had people. There were people.
I was going to say.
People were everywhere. High payroll, high everything.
Well, because there's a boiler on Fulton Street in Brooklyn that needs fixing.
Yep.
On December 25th.
Plumbers, and then you get the bill for $50,000 in the middle of the winter. There's nothing you could do. I mean, this is this is real stuff.
Okay.
This is real stuff. This is the people, the side that people will never understand and see because that's just the reality.
Right. So you were like you had a great system. It seems you've had a great system, but at the same time you were like cowboys too.
A lot of cowboys stuff.
Right.
You're buying things. Could there have been some more diligence on things?
Right.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you're also, at some point, you were gambling on the tenants.
Right.
Whether they were going to leave or not. Right. And there's no guarantee that anyone has to leave.
Of course.
Whether you pay them $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't execute on enough tenants, you're still going to be underwater.
Right.
Right. And a lot of these things were funded with bridge debt because that's the only way that they would be financed, and pay them off most of the time.
Yeah, sure.
I'd buy a building, vacate it, renovate it, either cash out, refi an insane amount of money, or sell it, right? And I did this so many times, right? And at some point, you hit a brick wall with the tenants. You have too many tenants, you have too many buildings, you hit that brick wall, and then the law started going against you where you couldn't even execute on your plan.
Sure.
And then you're stuck with a lot of stuff, right? So the free market stuff would sell.
Right.
And then you're left with some rent regulated stuff that's going to sell for a lot less.
Any you pull out any lessons from this?
I mean,
that you don't that you see when as you're doing things today, you say,
tons. I mean, you only learn by doing these things and mistakes, right? Okay. How do you treat your investors? Your investor reporting, right? Like, how do you report to investors? That's what we were just talking about, right? How do you report to your investors? How do you your overhead costs,
right?
Self-managing. Some things are meant to be self-managed. Some things might not be meant to be self-managed.
Because everything's always smooth when you're getting money and you're writing checks to your investors. Everything's always easy. That's the easy stuff.
But that's not the reality.
Right.
The reality is, coming up with extra money on a monthly basis because things happen, right? Whether the blowers in the car wash stop working and it's $10,000 and, and how are you going to get that? Right?
That's all right? That's you and your partners.
Pretty much to cover that, right? And then you figure it out. But this is the reality of this business that people don't talk about.
Sure.
The roof is going to cave in. The boilers are going to go, right? The heating's not going to work in the middle of the winter. Right. Like, how do you solve these problems?
And these are all add a zero to it, or maybe 2 zeros to it in terms of the expense.
Right, exactly.
Right. This is not a $500 bill.
This is not a $500 bill, or legal fees have gone through the roof. Right, dead deal costs for people. I just don't know how. I talk about this to people how they start in this business because the way to I got into a great time, but now starting it's just with transaction volume and costs of everything and overhead and. All the computer programs you need to be competitive. Right.
Just to be in the game.
Just to be in the game. Now there's so much more competition and computer systems and things you could sign up for on a daily basis.
I know we talk about it all the time. Stephanie and I talk about it all the time. Even just in the regular old retail leasing world, someone's got a new program. You'll find more tenants this way. You'll find more landlords this way. At some point, which one?
Right. At some point, which one? It's just crazy.
Right.
So back to, at the end of the day, we did very, very well.
Yes.
Right. Learned a lot of lessons, but really from 2017 to 19 was getting rid of a lot of this stuff.
Sure.
So getting rid of a lot of this stuff is like full-time job.
Right.
You have 100 buildings because you know what? It's like catching a falling knife. The value is just plummeting faster than you could sell it for almost because there were no buyers. So eventually took years, but got rid of all that stuff. And then in 2017, 18, started Hildreth, and I said, you know what? I want to focus more on cash flow because having these 130 buildings, I don't think there were any investor distributions ever.
I was going to say, I would imagine through all the good stuff and all the craziness and stuff, you learn about people. Yeah, I think you learn about people along the way, right? So as you transition from that aspect of the business into your cash flowing business, the communication is different, right? How you deal with, people react, where's my monthly check? What happened to my quarterly or whatever? And you tell them about the blowers you got to fix on the car.
I know exactly how to handle it, now because back then, it was more tense, right? It was much more tense.
Sure.
It was much more
intense.
It was pressure. There's pressure. There's more buildings right now. It's still I put the pressure on myself, right? Because I want to be
That's all right. If it helps you perform, then I get that.
Yes, I want to be great at what I do, right? I want to be known for doing great deals, turning things around, challenging myself, right? But it's also hard because the deal volume's not as what it was, right?
That's all right. So look, you can polish them up and shine them up and be better at less.
Right. That is true. I've come to grips with some of that.
Where does the name Hildreth come from?
It's a street I live on in Sag Harbor.
That's what I thought. When I drove on it over the past few summers, I'm like, that's where got to be where he gets the name from.
But and really, one of our largest investors of the previous business, was a big proponent of retail and shopping centers.
Oh, nice.
he's like, oh, why do you want to fix the toilets? The toilets, it's a headache. It's a headache. Sure. It's a headache. It's a pain in the ass. You should be doing, retail stuff. So then I said, all right, I'm going to focus on cash flowing assets. So that was really like first building Hildreth bought was a shopping center.
Oh, nice. Which one?
Right. It was in Hempstead somewhere.
Okay.
I've sold it since.
Right.
Bought it with Ken Schuckman. It was a good deal. We did well on it. But I bought some by myself through some 1031s that I, like 7 stores, 8 stores, 3 stores. So I saw actually these things, you're not going to make your target cash flow, but there actually is. Even if it's $1,000 a month, it was a foreign concept.
Okay.
Of actually getting a check. It was like, besides on a sale, right?
Understood.
Or a refi.
Yeah, no, I get it. I
didn't know what cash flow even meant.
By the way, seven mom and pop retail tenants. There's still some toilets to fix.
Oh, there's still. Oh my god! and I still own all those. It's like the roof.
Yep.
A roof caved in $70,000 on a 3-unit thing. Yeah. That's your cash flow for 2.5 years, 3 years, if everyone pays.
That's right.
And everyone's not. That's also the misnomer that people don't.
Know that the world's so perfect.
The world is not perfect, right? So as you know better than anyone, but the 7-unit. Oh, fix my HVAC, $10,000.
When the opportunity presents itself, the 7-tenant retail strip is always good if like one of them is a national. It'll give you some coverage.
That's true. I learned just like looking at the old rent stabilized tenants, like which ones would leave. You'd predict which ones would leave, which ones would not, based upon age, how long they've been there, how much they're paying.
Right.
It's like, well, here you could just go in and talk to the tenants.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing. Like we would go try to talk to the tenants, go and try to talk to the tenants in the retail. How are they doing? Right. But chances are, within 3 years, a couple of those are going to turn over.
Right.
It's just the law of averages.
Right. You wish them the best. They're family run. Like they put their kids through college based on the business, but things change. And usually, and there's no, it's all free market.
Yep.
Right. What is the market telling you? The guy's in there for 10 years paying you $50 a foot. Now all of a sudden it's $100 a foot market.
Yep.
Right. So you get
that I would take. That would be good. Right.
Of course.
But the 50 could go to 40.
Absolutely. No, it can go the other way. 100%.
The 50 could go to 40 because I was just looking at something that I backed out of. I was showing it to you, and it's a good learning lesson. Like you had one tenant paying $25,000 a month.
Okay.
Right, paying $50 a foot, but the whole market's $40. So I called him up while I was in due diligence, and I said, "Can you?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm struggling to pay the rent. I'm struggling to pay rent. If I didn't make that call, you could lose $1 million on that deal, right?"
Yeah.
So he's like, what should I be paying? I'm like, what should you be paying? He's like, I'd be more comfortable at 15.
Sure.
So then I went back to the seller. Seller wouldn't reduce the price, and then I just walked out of the deal.
Hey, you know by now some of the best deals you make are the ones you don't.
Right. Even though on paper it was a 10 cap.
Of course.
Even with the inflated rent. And the guy was paying.
It's paper. It's paper.
Right.
Just the paper.
Right. It was just the paper.
Right.
Because no one has to pay anything they don't want.
Exactly.
It's just the reality of this world.
Absolutely. So now here you are. You're, like you said, you're in the cash flow world. More centers. We talked briefly off air about West Hampton. We're involved in something in East Hampton, and the car washes too. What do you like when you wake up in the morning? Obviously you own property and you're handling the management of the properties. But like you said, you're a hyper guy. You want to keep doing and whatever. What are you looking for every day?
I mean, my main focus is probably strip centers.
Okay.
Right? Close that I can drive to. Mm-hmm. Hopefully some that are bigger, but challenging to find, especially right now. You got to buy them really I think you could buy them at like 8+ caps, right, on real numbers.
Yes.
And those are extremely hard to find.
Yes.
So that's probably like the first thing that gets me a little bit excited.
Especially from an off-market perspective.
Try to be from an off-market.
Yeah.
It could be on-market, off-market. But right now, I also think like I got to focus on higher quality stuff because in some of these places where you can even get the 8 caps, you have so much vacancy.
Right.
In these tertiary areas, and it's hard. Things take 6 months, 12 months to lease. And I have things in great areas that take you 12 months to lease.
I had a conversation this morning on a property that, for all intents and purposes, is an A location, and they were asking me about lease up time and I said you got to go like 6-9 months, and in some cases 12 from a marketing and a lease perspective, because not only does it take the time to get through it, I'm finding the tenants today, and it's the landlords too. Remember, I'm the broker, so I got both sides. There's no rush.
No rush.
People want to do. There are retailers who want to transact, and they'll call you up and they'll talk to you and they'll send you a proposal, and then you'll respond to them, and then a week from next Tuesday they'll call you back, and no one is on fire to sign something,
right?
And so you got to find a way to put that into your underwriting, and you have to be. I think you have to really be cautious about that window, that downtime window. Because there's so almost nothing that's signing in 30 days.
Right.
Just not.
Unless unless you have it in your pocket.
Yeah. But the guy in your pocket, right, it's not even 30 days. He's in your pocket. You're done.
Just like we're doing in East Hampton. The guy was in my pocket. It's like 6 months free and been talking to him for 4 or 5 months already.
Right.
So you're talking like really a year till the guy gets open. That's not.
No, it's nuts.
It's nuts, and it's not factored in anyone's model. On paper, is it going to be tremendous?
Yeah.
It's going to be almost double the rent or whatever it is. Yes.
When you finally get there. Right.
When you finally get there.
Right.
I guess we're at the end of the day, we're really trying to get there. Right.
Doesn't sound like it's going to happen by year's end. Though.
Right. It's not going to happen. Right. It's going to happen by the end of next year. Right. But that's why even in working on the better locations,
sure.
you got a higher rent for the longer term.
Yes, and usually we love the mom and pops. They generate cash and all that stuff. But from a practical perspective, when you deal with the better locations, you're usually with better tenants.
Right.
And so the conversation is different.
That too. So I'm saying like, all right, I got to also be careful on the locations and things like that. And then I focus on, I built a nice retail portfolio in the Hamptons, which is a nice location to try to stay close to there. And then I'm very focused on the Riverhead area, which is an emerging area. So I try to just look for more buildings in there.
Do they landmark a lot of Riverhead?
No, luckily not my stuff.
Okay.
We're trying to develop. We're trying to entitle some stuff with a partner we just brought on, and there's constant work with the stuff I have, but it's very challenging to find new stuff. And then I have a few car washes now, which is a very exciting space. I bought and sold some. I've been able to bird dog a few of them, and it's a cash flow. It can be highly, a high amount of cash flow. Like when the same building that you buy for $5 million brings in $500,000, a car wash that for $5 million could bring in over $3.5 million.
Sure.
So there's a lot more cash flow potential.
How are you finding things as an operator? And I think if I remember correctly, you had done the laundromat business for a while too. So what's it like being an operator on top of all this?
It's same thing. You go through your learning lessons, right? You have to have consultants that you pay, and you have to have the right managers in place, right? And the right reporting systems.
Sure,
so it's all about the technology, buying the technology, having all that implemented. And same with the laundromats. So I built up a portfolio of laundromats, selling one now for a very, very, very good number.
Oh, good.
It's also same like the car wash. It's extremely hard to find them at the right place.
Strategic partners.
Partner knows how to run it. So now it's like I could go and buy my own. Right. Like I could, but in Manhattan, you look at C1 in Manhattan, which I've looked at some, or Queens or Brooklyn. The prices are just they're 10 times multiples.
The land.
It's just like And then your lease is only 10 years. So what are you left with after 10 years?
Right.
You don't own the If you don't own the building, you're going to be out of business.
Exactly.
So I like to either have 20+ year lease at a minimum, or own the building, in the car wash or the laundromat, which those are extremely hard to find.
I would imagine.
Right. Otherwise, these social media people tell you, oh, go buy the car wash, go buy this. If the lease isn't done properly, or you're or you're going to be out in 8 years and you paid $300,000 for the business, you might have lost all your money.
Which right there is par for the course for social media, right? Because it goes as it goes with anything. The devil's in the details.
The devil's in the details. The devil's in the details. So, trying different things, which keeps it fresh. Because real estate's been, since the rates have gone up, it's been harder to buy good properties at the right price.
Yeah. No, look, it's great the way you and Jason are set up. With your organization now. you could be fluid. And it sounds that way, listening, spending this, 40 minutes with you and listening to the story. You keep yourself, sort of small but big at the same time. But like I said, you stay fluid, and I'm enjoying watching your journey. I'm enjoying being a little bit of a part of it. I hope maybe there's some more to that down the road. We'll see. But I love spending time with you. I look forward to spending some more time with you. And David Shorenstein, Hildreth, I love spending time. Let's do it again real soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.